Hi. So in today's chat, I would like to talk about something that has been a central point of struggle in my own life. I think as early as, well, in terms of my conscious memory, as early as maybe primary school and even more so in secondary school. And that is the tension or the dilemma of choosing between what I feel I need to do and I ought to do in order to be accepted, to be approved of, and how I actually really feel and what I really want. Now, the thing is actually, before I started again this interior journey of healing and getting to know myself again, which was a journey that I started when I turned 30, about 12 years ago, I had actually lost touch with one side of that tension, which is how I actually really feel. I had by that time learned to distrust my own emotions, distrust my gut, distrust anything that, anytime I kind of feel like I want something, instinctively I think there's a judgment on that's not to be trusted, that it's probably selfish, and that the better thing or the right thing then to do is somehow always the opposite of what my heart or my gut is trying to tell me it wants. Okay. And that is, it's just the way it was. And in my own journey, as well as in so many people that I speak to, that I accompany, including clients that I coach, in one form or another, this kind of tension and bias exists, right? This tension between a deep awareness and ability to be attentive to just what the body, the heart, the gut is actually saying about, what is and what I actually feel. And the other side of the tension would be, perhaps some people will call it our super ego, right? Or the head knowledge or judgment that immediately puts a value on, but these are the things that are right, these are the things that are good, and these are the things that I ought to be doing. And if these two things are in tension, there is a cost if I choose to be true to one versus the other, whichever one we lean towards, right? Now, for a very, very long time, I never even doubted that there was anything suspect or problematic about what my mind, my intellect has grasped and understood as the higher good of being altruistic, being selfless, self-sacrificial, of doing the noble thing of sacrificing my own comfort, my own needs to help another person in need. That was how I was raised. These are the values that I imbibed, both in my family, my culture, Asian kind of culture, where the collective's good is always somehow put above the needs of the individual. And it is also exalted and praiseworthy, this kind of self-sacrificial behavior, right? It is also praised and rewarded in the religion of my faith, which is, I'm a Catholic, I'm Christian, right? And there's always this emphasis on, of course, laying down one's life for the sake of another, right? Now, I'm not saying that is wrong, but I am trying to, I'm trying to kind of highlight that the way that we interpret something like that, of what is virtuous, the way that we interpret it can be very damaging if we do not know how to hold these two opposites, which is the truth that my body, my heart, my gut is trying to speak to me about, right? It's my internal compass. And on the other hand, what people like to call objective truth, in the sense of outside of me, right? Truth that comes purely from the outside of me. If we trust that always completely over the truth that is coming from within us, then we're going to end up always in conflict, in tension, and we will feel like we're forced to choose one over the other. Now, in the last year, I've learned a new term from watching some videos and teachings by Dr. Gabor Mate. So I think this year his name has suddenly become a lot better known because of an incredibly moving movie called The Wisdom of Trauma. So Dr. Gabor Mate, he's a medical doctor who created, started this way of psychotherapeutic inquiry called compassionate inquiry. He is one voice among many. He's not the only voice who is trying to show the connection between even just mental and physical illnesses, addictions, with emotional health. Okay, emotional health. And Dr. Gabor Mate talks about that every human being, from our earliest days, have two basic needs. And I know you relate to this. One need is the need for attachment, the need for relationship, to be loved, to belong, right? To be in relationship with the people who care for us. That is a survival need. If we do not have that, we will not survive. We would quite literally die. And that's built into us, not just emotionally, but biologically as well. There's another need, actually, just as important, and that's the need for authenticity, right? The need to feel what I feel, to be able to trust what I feel, and to be able to express the truth that is coming from within me, the truth of what I feel, what I think. And ideally, these two needs can be met in our families, in one place where I can be true and honest and authentic. I can feel what I feel, and I would not fear the risk of losing attachment, right? Losing relationship that's important to me if I am honest about feeling what I feel. But unfortunately, I think in every place, because we're all, I think, generation upon generation of hurt and brokenness, and different levels of inauthenticity and even unawareness, that and Dr. Gabor Mate talks about this as well, that even the best intentioned parents, right? I mean, we're not even talking about parents who are explicitly, overtly abusive, whether emotionally or physically. We're talking about parents who are generally trying their best and they want to be able to love their children well. Will often inadvertently communicate to their children that in order for them to be fully received by the parent, to be loved well by the parent, they need to sometimes suppress their authenticity. That sometimes them expressing exactly how they feel is not welcome, right? And that's because we all have issues with even accepting our own difficult feelings. So it's even much harder for us to deal with another person's difficult emotions. So this difficulty in experiencing that we can be received fully, that we can be safe with someone that we love if we feel what we feel, from our youngest days, mean that we often choose attachment over authenticity, right? So a lot of us, we choose to prioritize belonging because we want to fit in, whether it is in our family or as we grow up with our friends, or as we get into adulthood, even with our colleagues, our communities, whether it's our religious communities or, our whatever, whichever group, social group we prize, that we value. we will always be aware that there probably is a certain kind of norm of behavior, of action, of choice that we need to do in order to be seen as good, worthy, praiseworthy, likable, respectable, however you want to describe that, right? Because some of us may want to be honored, some of us may just want to be loved and popular, some of us may want to be respected. But all these are measures of, I would say, of how we want to experience attachment. Basically, that feeling that I am received, right? I'm not rejected. So what happens when, even when we're adults, we are not able to give ourselves that acceptance? So now I'm talking about just within ourselves, right? There is a relationship that we have with ourselves, which I think a lot of us are not aware of. Because when we are young, if we do not know how to develop that relationship with ourselves, we're constantly only looking outside of ourselves for acceptance. So we never learn. We never learn how to give ourselves that acceptance that we really crave and need. And so even when we are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, perhaps even 60s, and who knows, even older, our sense of identity still rests on, well, something that's outside of us, whether it's the family group, whether it's our community, whether it's our friends. Now, I'm also talking about this now near the end of November, and the end of the year is often a time of great emotional stress for a lot of people, whether they are fully aware of it or not. And why is that? Because December is often, traditionally a time for festivities, celebrations, a time when people write festive cards, whether, maybe Christmas cards to friends, buy presents, plan meals and get-togethers. So what does that mean? That means that, if you're hosting, you're probably thinking of people to invite. Who's going to be on your guest list, right? Even if you're hosting, let's say, multiple gatherings, who's going to be on the guest list? Who are you including and who are you not going to be including? You're going to have to, exclude some people, right? If you're on the receiving end of invitations, which invitations are you going to be saying yes to? Which invitations are you going to turn down? Do you realize that whichever side, whether you're the host or you're a guest, you're an invited guest, when you make these decisions, you're going to have to weigh in between how you really feel. Do you really, really want to, in the first place, let's say, hold this gathering? Maybe it's something that your family expects of you, or your friends expect of you. Maybe every year you do this, and it's become, the social event of their calendar in the year end, and you feel the weight of that expectation. What if the truth is this year you don't want to do this, right? If you feel what you feel, you just want a quiet, restful December. It's been such a stressful year in the pandemic. Maybe you just want to have a quiet one. Just for example, right? Or just with maybe, a very different kind of time with maybe just one or two friends. Even if you're technically allowed now by social measures to have a larger gathering. Maybe you don't want to have a larger gathering. Are you going to feel like you have to choose, right? Between how you feel and making your friends happy. Right? And I think we probably will feel that tension. And which are you going to go with? If you receive invitations, how would you decide if on one hand you're afraid that, if I say no, my friends are going to think that I don't care about them, versus what I really want, what I really need is time to figure out what's important to me now that the year is over and I need to look ahead. I don't want to have a noisy December. I don't want to have a crowded social calendar. And maybe I just want to attend 1 or 2 gatherings and then with my family, and that's it. Which way will you go? So even in that, there is that tension between your need for attachment, right? Your need to feel belonging, for your friends, for other people to think well of you, to connect with you, and honoring what is the truth of what you feel. Now, the thing is, of course, if you really think about it, the people who really do love you for you, and I really hope that there are such people in your life, right? May not be many. We're very, very fortunate, even if we have just 1 or 2 such people in our life who love us not for what we can do for them, but love us for us, who actually genuinely want what's best for us. They're not going to be the ones that are going to be disappointed or mad if you don't accept their invitation, or if you decide you're not going to host a gathering. They are the ones that are going to say, okay, yes, maybe a part of me, I miss you, and I wish that, I could spend this time with you. I miss our gatherings. But your well-being and your happiness, that's more important, and as long as you're well and you're happy, I'm sure that in time, we will have opportunity to meet again and to hang out together again, right? And that's about gatherings. I know for many years in the past, I would feel stressed about the number of cards, Christmas cards I would need to write. And you hear me say that, need to write, right? It's almost like I have this expectation that in order to maintain certain friendships and relationships, especially for those who actually do send me cards, I'm not a very gift and card kind of person, okay? So sometimes I just feel this sense of obligation to reciprocate, right? People send me a card, and if I don't send them one in return the next year, maybe they're going to think that I don't care, and maybe they're going to stop sending me cards in the future. And what would that mean? Oh, maybe that would mean that I'm not important to them, or that, they don't care about me anymore. Notice the level of assumptions, right? In the first place, the assumption that just because someone sends me a card necessarily means that I'm really important to them. I mean, that may be the case, but that may not always be the case. There's some people who are just really wonderful with sending cards to friends. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's that big a deal that, in the way that I read into it, right? Even though I may be very happy when I receive a card. Who wouldn't be, right? So all the layers of reading into something as simple as giving and receiving cards shows my insecurity. There is something that has remained very young in me. There's a scared little girl still in this 40-something-year-old body that my friends are going to abandon me, that I might do something wrong and say something wrong, and I'll be alone and I'll be lonely. Even as I say this now, I'm getting a little teary because that feeling is so familiar. And even though I have become a lot more secure because of a lot of the healing work that I've done and continue to do, it's never far away. It's never far away. Sometimes it's so silly. It could just be, let's say, someone delays in responding to a message, or after I do a session and I don't get any kind of feedback and response as to whether it was experienced as good or not, and the insecurity kicks in, and I'm afraid that I did something wrong or said something wrong. Maybe I pushed too hard or made somebody uncomfortable, And then sometimes I'm not able to accept that is how I feel, that I feel insecure. So authenticity, feeling how I feel, honoring that this is what my gut is saying to me, and then learning to tend to myself, giving myself the time that I need, the space that I need, to just be seen and heard just by myself, right? Versus constantly chasing someone else's favor, someone else's approval. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live a life that's constantly imprisoned by the expectations and the wants and opinions of other people. No matter how important someone else is, I want to at the same time be able to give room to honor and feel what I feel. I don't want to have to continually subjugate the truth of my emotions, of my convictions, to the need for me to be accepted by someone else. Now, in my own personal journey, the centerpiece of healing, that place, there's one place in which my attachment need and my authenticity need, they coexist. And that is in God. For me, that is that one place that I have discovered, sometimes been shocked at how God is not afraid, not scandalized and not intimidated of the magnitude or whatever it is. I can feel what I feel and I can express exactly how I feel with Him. And for so long I had grown up afraid, thinking that I have to censor, even in prayer, that I have to censor what I can say because I've projected onto God, the human tendency to give conditional approval. But in God's love, I've experienced that healing because I realized that I can express exactly what I feel and He can see me and hear me. And not only does He threaten to withdraw attachment from me, He pours out even more love and says, try me. I love you more than that. My love can encompass everything and anything you can throw at me. It can encompass and embrace everything that you feel. And it is from that place of integration where my attachment need and my authenticity need can come together that I rebuild myself, my confidence, my security. Because I know that, at the core of me, in the deepest part of my identity, I am accepted when I am true to myself. In fact, I have a growing conviction, not just of the mind, but experienced in my body, that God delights in my authenticity. And yes, that authenticity, the expression of the authenticity can still mature and grow. And I'm going to stumble along the way as I learn what that means to be true to myself and also to be loving, right? How to live in that tension of an imperfect world. But I will no longer abandon myself just because I'm afraid that others will abandon me. And so I'm just this little, doing this little sharing because I think some of you maybe need to hear this. I know a lot of you will actually identify with this because it's such a universal tension within us. And if you find yourself struggling at this end of year especially, between choosing what you need, listening to your own emotions and being able to express what you feel, and wanting to fit in and belong, I just want to remind you that your acceptance and your love and unconditional love for yourself is much more important than anyone else's approval. And if you can't offer that to yourself, I think we're all learning to do that still. Try working on that rather than trying to chase the approval of others in order to feed that attachment need within yourself, because it's possible, and if you're a person of faith, I really invite you to just sit before God and let Him love you in the truest form of you. experience that, and then you'll find that from there you also have that ability to look at yourself and to receive yourself. Then you can be more authentic even when you are with others, and you will see who your true friends are, the ones who really do love you for you. And really, why do we want to spend so much time with people who only love us or want us for what we can do for them anyway, right? So I wish you a presence-filled end of year, and one where your authenticity and your capacity and need for love and attachment can find some way to meet, if not perfectly, at least a little bit more, with a little bit more integration than before. So thank you for listening to this End Chat. Until the next time.